and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 127, and the title of this episode is Current Economic Collapse News Brief for Saturday. Just to remind everyone, there will be a interview posted on Sunday. This is with Fabian Calvo, Fabian for Liberty, and just as a disclaimer, there are cutouts and things like that. We tried to get together with Skype many times, and for some reason we just could not connect. We did it over the phone, but for some reason there are drops. So this is just a disclaimer that you will hear breakups and things like that during the interview. But let's get into the economic collapse news today. Europeans are losing their trust in their governments. A recent study carried out showed that they did it with 107 countries, and out of these countries, 23% said their governments are making effective efforts to beat corruption. And in Europe, the figures were much lower. In Spain, only 8% felt like corruption was being addressed. Italy, only 13%, and Greece and Portugal, 1%. And if you look at this, most of the countries that have very low percentage that their government is looking into corruption are the ones that are in really big trouble, that they have so much debt, that they need bailouts, high unemployment, and you can just see corruption running rampant because everyone is just trying to get a piece of the action before everything goes down. Okay, let's move on here. Now, we talked about the housing recovery, and we talked about mortgages plunging. We talked about builders not seeing the same amount of traffic. We talked about construction taking a dip, and now we are seeing. And we also talked about underemployment, unemployment, people who foreclose, people who don't have credit to get mortgages, the rising interest rates where it's knocking people out of the housing industry. And now there's a report that says about 21 million young adults now live with their parents. And this is from age 18 to 31. Normally, this type of age range is when people purchase homes. But guess what? People coming out of college cannot find a job in their sector, and if they do get a job, it's usually a part-time job or something that is completely different from what they went to school for. And now these people have to live at home because they do not make enough money to live on their own. And we're seeing this as a growing trend. So with the Fed continuously buying all the toxic real estate mortgages from all the banks, and we know that the banks have tons of foreclosures still on their books, or the Fed wouldn't be buying them. But they're doing this at to $40 to $45 billion a month, plus another $40 to $45 billion for Treasury bonds, which is a total of about $85 billion or so. And from all this evidence and from everything that we're seeing, and even I forgot to mention that hedge funds are starting to sell their homes, and because they are trying to get out before the whole thing collapses, because they're seeing that homes are not rising the way they thought. They try to spur the market and build it up with purchasing homes and renting them out, and they are trying to get out at this point also. So we're seeing the trend of real estate not improving. We're seeing all the indicators showing that real estate will be declining. Now, Fed's Bullard, he sees the drop in the jobless rate from 7.6 to 7.4 as a good sign. It's a good sign for the Fed. It's good for the economy. But we went over these numbers yesterday in episode 126, showing that most of these jobs are part-time. They're not manufacturing. They're in the service-oriented field. And we have to remember that the calculation for unemployment has been changed since 1994, and they are not counting those people who are no longer looking for work, who have fell off, and that reduced the unemployment percentage. And they're saying they're getting closer and closer, and the economy is looking better, which will enable the Fed to taper this fall or early winter. So they are trying to push this forward. Do I really personally think they'll actually do the taper? No, I think there will be a false flag or something else that will make the economy, or they will blame it on this false flag that the economy has taken a dive, and they would say they were just about to taper, and now they can't because of either, and I've talked about this in my other episodes, because of a false flag event, which could be a cyber attack at this point, where Syria or China or Iran attacks the financial institutions, brings it to its knees, or there could be some type of dirty bomb that goes off someplace, and we're going to see something like this, and the government and the Fed are going to make it seem like they were just about to taper, the economy was just about to really ramp up and get a lot better until this happened, and now we cannot taper, and you'll see the economy crash, and this will be part one, which I discussed in my other episodes. Okay, let's move on here. Now, Iran's foreign ministry spokesman says that the U.S. sanctions, wrong move at the wrong time, that uh, increasing the sanctions against Iran is not the right thing to do at this point, and the U.S. House of Representatives on Wednesday approved a bill to slap tougher sanctions on Iran's oil exports and other economic sectors. And we know that this is going to be meaningless, and Iran knows, Russia knows, China knows, everyone knows that the only way the U.S. government central bankers are going to be happy is if Iran trades in the U.S. dollar and uses it as its reserve currency. And they also set up a Western central bank. Same goes with Syria. Until this happens, they will never stop doing this. They've been doing this for over 20 years plus. And if you go back in time, you will see that Israel continuously says that Iran is 3 to 5 years away from making a bomb. And they say this for, every year or every 2 years. And I've had this on one of my other episodes where I laid it out, and it was in Sentinel Alerts, that I took every headline and showed you that either the U.S. government or Israel always says that Iran is very close to making a nuclear weapon, and they're 2 to 3 years out or 5 years out, whatever the magic number that they're using at that time. But it's been over 20-something years and still no nuclear weapon. Why? Because they're not making one. The other thing is they will never be happy until Iran and Syria use the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency, and the U.S. government and central bankers have full control over Iran and Syria and implement a Western central bank in these countries. If this doesn't happen, there will be no peace. All these peace talks that they talk about will never ever go anywhere. It's a front for all those people who believe that the U.S. government, Israel, is trying to have peace with Iran and Syria, but we know for a fact that this will never happen, and this is just a front for those people who are not aware of what's really going on there. Now, let's go back to Obamacare. Yesterday I pointed out that Obama waved his magic wand, and all the staffers, they don't have to pay the $5,000 premium for individuals or $11,000 premium for health care for families. The Obama administration took care of it, and the government will flip the bill, which is really the taxpayers that will pay for all of this. And it's really not the government, if we really think about it. Now, what about the rest of America who's complaining that this $5,000 and $11,000 premium is way too high? Well, don't worry, they have the answer for that. If you don't pay it, you're taxed, you're penalized. You'll pay either way, either with a tax or a penalty, or you can pay the insurance premium. Guess what? Both ways, you're screwed. This policy is not for the people, and a healthcare media company sponsored a scientific poll of more than 2,000 registered voters and found a stunning 77% want to see Obamacare individual health insurance mandate delayed or scrapped entirely. And I completely agree with this, and actually it should be 100%. And again, Obamacare is not for the people. Something that is good for the people does not penalize you on both ends, because if you don't like what we're giving you, we're going to take your money anyhow. And that's not good for the people. Now, Michael Bloomberg is out there, and this time now he's targeting senators who opposed gun control, and he's saying, that we need to get rid of these senators that oppose gun control and only put senators in there that approve gun control. And he goes on to say, we're going to keep going after these senators that won't support gun control, he said in his weekly appearance on John Gambling Show. In Congress, if Congress won't act, he added, we've got to have the public get up and say, we're not going to take it. We're going to vote for somebody else. But he has to remember that he is not speaking for the people, and the people have spoken, and that bill was shot down. But miraculously, President Obama spoke to the Senate, and they kept it pending in the Senate, the gun bill, along with the UN Arms Treaty, and along with the CISPA bill. They're all pending in the Senate. Why are they pending in the Senate? Because they're waiting for some type of event to occur, and they can pull these bills out and say, we have a solution for this event. Now, what can those events be? It could be any type of false flag event that would be horrific. It would be bloody. It would force the people to beg for gun control again and have the groups rise up again, and that's something they would need for those to go forward. So they are just sitting there and waiting. Okay, let's move on here. Now, the FBI employs hackers and to remotely activate cell phones, laptop microphones, and more. A new report reveals that the FBI directly employs multiple hackers who create custom surveillance software for the Bureau, some of which is capable of remotely activating the microphones on cell phones, laptops, and among other features. So just be very careful what you download. If you have a virus or malware, be aware of this. I would not click on any attachments that come to you unless you know it's from someone you absolutely know and you speak to them first that they were sending it to you. And just as the government is one of the biggest purchasers of malware, and they have the ability to spy on people, which again is against the Fourth Amendment, but none of our agencies care anymore, and we just have to be aware that they are doing this. Okay, let's move on here. Now, you remember back there was a report that said about 1,100 Libyan, there was a jailbreak of about 1,100 people, and only about 100 were recaptured. And the reason I bring this up is that the Interpol Global Alert for Al-Qaeda prison escapees is reporting that some of these escaped prisoners could be terrorists, and we need to be very careful, and they raised the alert on Saturday. We're seeing a lot of this happen now because of what the U.S. government issued yesterday or the day before about closing the embassies, being careful about traveling. And now we see that the UK, Germany, and France now close their embassies in Yemen over the possible terror threat. And we are getting messages from Al-Qaeda, and the NSA kind of intercepted these messages. And this goes on to say that the terrorism alert was issued because U.S. intelligence officers intercepted communications between Al-Qaeda operatives organizing an attack on U.S. targets in the Middle East. And they issued the warning for those people who are traveling, and they also, not just traveling and not just for the embassies, they even said the terrorism beyond that, and those citizens should be aware of their surroundings, and especially if they're on trains, if they're in busy areas because something might happen. Now, the U.S. government, they don't want to let out too much information, and because they're afraid of tipping off Al-Qaeda. And former State Department analyst Joel Rubin says the U.S. Department does not want to single out any specific country or region for fear of tipping off the Al-Qaeda cell after it issued a worldwide travel alert. And what the government is doing right now, we know they're under fire and we know they're under scrutiny about spying on all Americans and spying across the world. And it is a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment. Now, we also have Snowden, who's seeking asylum, who got asylum in Russia. And the U.S. officials are calling him a traitor, and he's leaking out information about the program, which is completely illegal under the Constitution. But that's a whole other point. They are stuck here. They need a distraction. They need to show why their system works. So by issuing this in the next 30 days or so, it shows that they've received and they intercepted information that is viable and worthwhile, and this spying on all these people, on everyone all the time, is worth it. Now, they need to do one of two things. If they don't carry out the false flag event and they say they just stop them, well, that's kind of saying that, it's like me saying, oh, I heard that there's supposed to be a terrorist threat on this supermarket and nothing happens. How do you prove that? That doesn't seem an avenue they would take. The avenue that they would take is issue the warning, have something happen or about to happen, or get the first plot, let it go off, and then they can say they stopped the rest from happening. So something in, when you look at everything with, you have Obama with Benghazi, and all the information and the truth is coming out about that. You have Snowden, who's leaking the information about the NSA. You have the NSA in front of Congress trying to explain why they're doing this. They have the NSA in front of the American people, and Obama in front of the American people trying to explain why they are doing this and why they need to spy on Americans. They have the European countries very upset that they're being spied on, and the Congress was asking them to prove and what have they used the information for, and they tried to show that they stopped all these things, and that really didn't go over that big. So what they need to do now is create this distraction, and it's very, they use this scare technique. They create a situation, they scare everyone, make them afraid, and most of the time they have the solution in their back pocket, or they have something, pending in the Senate where they have the solution. This time they will have the solution, and the solution is NSA needs to spy on all the people. Look what we were able to do. Look how we were able to stop what is happening. So in the next 30 days, I believe the avenue that they will have to take, and this could be a two-part type of terrorism thing, because they have to show the people that they actually stopped, or they had the ability to know what was going on. The first incident went off, and they stopped the rest of it. But if they had more information and they were allowed to do their job, they could have stopped all of this. And I believe that this is the road they are going to go down, and we should see something definitely happening. Now, what could this be? This could be a bomb in New York, a bomb in Chicago. The effect out in another area like the Middle East, I don't know if the Americans would really care that much. I think something would have to happen around this area, but hey, I could be wrong. But something will definitely have to happen. And what I find very interesting, I look on CNN and I look on USA Today and Fox News, wouldn't you think that these would be the headlines? But they're kind of downplaying it. Even on CNN, it's really hard to find this. Same thing with on Fox and USA Today. So they mentioned it, but then they kind of buried it, which leads me to believe that something will happen and they can pull these stories out later to show that, for those people, because I spoke to a couple of people and they have no idea what's going on. They never even heard of this. They can pull these stories out later on to show that this was reported on, and people can say, "Oh, look, they did know about this, so the spying is good," and this is why something will definitely happen. Now, on something else that happened, a U.S. nuclear plant declares alert, and this is Alabama Power. Joseph M. Farley Nuclear Plant declared an Alert Unit 1 August 3rd at 5:20 a.m. An alert is the second least serious of 4 nuclear plant emergency classifications assigned by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And at this point, they're saying the public is no longer in danger, or they're not in danger, and the appropriate federal, state, and the local officials have been notified. And there are no additional information on this, which I thought was very interesting, that this alert has gone out. But we will expect to see something in the next 30 days. The NSA has intercepted, as they say, a message. They will go down the route of showing the American people why the NSA and why the government needs to spy on everyone all the time, every day, and they need to prove their case. Plus, this is a complete distraction, once this goes off, of everything that Obama's administration has been doing with Benghazi, IRS, the NSA, and they're hoping to put all of this to rest once this occurs. Listen, everyone, we know something's going to happen, so I would advise everyone, if you haven't been doing it, start getting some water, getting some food, batteries, medical supplies, toiletries, things like that, and, make sure you have these things. Listen, everyone, thanks for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.